So I appreciate you all coming for Crossing the Cistern. I'm sure a lot of this information you guys have heard a couple times. And so, as I mentioned, it'll be a lot of general information. So if you have questions or you want to go over specifics, then just let me know. Okay. So obviously, first things first. Before you can anticipate graduation, you must anticipate that you have all of your credit hours. So you wanted to use DegreeWorks to make sure that you have everything qualified, meet with your faculty advisor, meet with the advising team, and when in doubt, go to the registrar's office. You know, if you're not able to get with your advisor, if you haven't applied for graduation at this point, there might be a chance that you're not graduating. Because there's an application process, you have to pay a fee before they will allow you to be added to the names of recipients who will be getting degrees.
It's kind of funny, it's an advisor. I see my advisor all the time. Walking his office right now.
Beautiful. And then he should be able to let you know if you are ready to graduate. And then after graduation, you need to think about, or prior to graduation, you need to think about, what do you want to do? Do you want to work? Do you want to go to graduate school? Do you want to travel, do a gap year? A lot of students have started doing this idea of a gap year where you just go off into the world. And it's different avenues, different mechanisms to be able to do so. Some choose to teach English in a different country. Some choose to save up their money and travel, for 6 months. And so there really is no better time than now, because as you accumulate more years on your life, you're also going to accumulate additional responsibilities, which makes it more difficult to kind of just go out and experience things without attachment. So once you kind of get in your mind, I have all my credit hours, I am ready to graduate, I want to go to graduate school, or I want to just go directly into the workforce, now you're able to kind of have an action plan to move forward. And so in all of those avenues, applying to teach abroad, and going in directly into the full-time job workforce, or applying for graduate school, you must kind of clean up your act. And so all of the crazy, wild things that you've been doing as a student, you kind of want to tone that down. And so you want to start with your social media accounts. A lot of students think that it's okay to just like, oh, I'm going to take it all down. But now what employers are doing, are they're judging you on a lack of social media. So if they, and unless you can kind of explain to them that that's something that you're not privy to, they're going to assume that you have access to that information. And they're going to make the assumption that if you don't have one now, that there's something questionable that you're trying to hide. So the easiest way and the most efficient way is to use social media to facilitate the image that you want to put out there. Yes?
So I have, I already get on like Twitter or Instagram, but I have Facebook. For that reason, so you have like one you just get on, that's fine, right?
Right, and that's okay. And I have a coworker that I used to work with 2 Facebook accounts. One was like, this is my life, booty shot, all that, and then she had a whole other account that was just completely professional, so that people could go out there, and she left it completely open. You could scroll through all of her pictures, and there was like no red cups, just very clean, so that employers could get her professional persona. And then she wanted to keep what she had cultivated, throughout college, so she wanted to keep her generic, her regular Facebook account.
They see both, or will they use like?
Well, she had a very generic name, and so you would have to know, like if her name's Jane Doe, several of those people, or if it's like Ashley Smith, then you have to look at the profile picture and match them. And I mean, if you're trying to clean up your stuff, then obviously you're going to make it seem as though this other person is not you, put some sort of backdrop, and then this other person is you with your face profile pic that they're going to click on and drill down in.
Wow, that's cool.
And so if you want to be technologically savvy, and especially if you got all kinds of crazy foolishness out there, that's the most efficient way. But you want to use all of your accounts to present the professional persona that you want your employers or your graduate school committee members to look at and use as a piece to determine whether they want to hire you on or accept you into their program. Yes.
So like social media, like Twitter and Instagram and all of that, like, so I have those, but they're all like private, because I don't know, I had a whole lot of creepers just requesting me as friends, and they were like weird people that I didn't know. So does that look bad, like having my account, I guess, protected or locked from people who are not my friends seeing it?
Well, in the world of employment, you could say that anything that's not positive is negative. So I can't immediately say that, yes, you're gonna see them like, I don't want that person. But what you want them to do instead of that is to say, I absolutely want that person. So you want to facilitate all opportunities to do that. So even though it's locked it down, chances are they're not gonna be able to say, I really want this person, because they can't get anything from your page because it's locked down. So that's the purpose of kind of using it to facilitate your professional persona, because when you lock it down, it's not facilitating anything. And so you want them to get something from it, and not having anything available, they can't get anything from it. And so they don't have an opportunity to pass like positive judgment on your social media pages. Another important thing is you need to solidify your relationships. In the last week, I've gotten 5 requests in the last 5 business days for recommendation letters from people who don't go here, because they have maintained their relationships with me. And so, and 3 out of the 5 got jobs directly after, the day after I submitted the recommendation letters. Not saying that I'm on that, but saying the fact that these people have maintained these relationships with me and can say at the drop of a dime, and yes, they were slack and saying, can you submit this by Friday? Today is Thursday. But nonetheless, if you're going up for a job and you know the deal breaker is a recommendation letter, do you have someone who can professionally speak to your qualifications that can submit that in a business day? And if you don't have those kinds of relationships, then now's the time to forge those. And it requires that the person know you, you spend time, networking. But I wrote those recommendations letters because I care about those students. Those students came to my office. They have relationships with me. And so that's why I chose to write those letters. And that's the relationships that you need to have and forge on this campus. If you know that you built a network, like in the downtown Charleston area, maybe you haven't been working on campus or interning on campus, but outward, then you need to make sure that those relationships are strong and maintained, because you're gonna need them. And it doesn't need to be your BFF. It needs to be someone who has a signature line in their email address, someone where an employer could say, this person has an established reputation at this employer. And when I do even references over the phone, they ask me how long I've been working in my job before I do anything else. They are questioning my credibility before I can speak to another person's credibility. I cannot tell you how important that is. Another reason why you need to solidify your faculty and staff relationships is because we do other things besides work at the College of Charleston. And so if I don't have a relationship with Alexis, then there is no way that I'm going to be able to tell her that this really awesome job that fits her degree and fits her coursework is available. And I mean, there's a large astronomical amount of jobs that are never posted anywhere, ever. I've seen 2 jobs in 1 week never be posted and be filled. I see the question mark. It happens. There's like 75% of all the jobs that people get are never posted anywhere. Not on any website, ever.
75?
75. So there's millions and millions of jobs out there, but all of them are not posted. And the really, really good ones are never, ever posted.
Is it because you gotta know somebody, somebody?
Right, and that's the networking. That's the networking piece. I'll say a lot of information about why you need to create your digital self and have it clean, and your resume and your cover letter. But I will reiterate over and over throughout this workshop, the one thing that completely trumps all of that is networking. And I've seen it. I've been on over 20 hiring panels at the College of Charleston, not including the hiring that I've done in other entities. I've worked at Barnes & Noble, I've worked for DHEC, not even counting those, counting just here. I have seen it several times of great qualified candidates, and the chair knows this person. This person is getting the job. That's it. Because I would want to hire someone that I know. And that's the whole purpose of the resume and the cover letter piece, is trying to get this person to know you enough to call you in for the interview. You can throw all of that essentially out of the window if you already know the person. And so networking is important, because there's plenty of times where I can get on the phone and say, I know so-and-so is applying for this programming job, I think they're a great individual. And you don't know who they're calling for the interview panel, or you don't know who is going to be on the program coordinating graduate school committee. You don't know who's gonna be looking at all of your information to determine whether they want you in as a candidate or not. But what if it's the same faculty member that you've already had a relationship with? Chances are they're gonna be able to speak to you personally, which is gonna give you a leg up on your competition. So it's really important you think about that networking piece. You need to make sure that your resume is updated. Every single time that you apply for any program, they're gonna ask for a resume. Nobody wants any student in their graduate program that has not worked, period. Why would I want that? You don't know what you're gonna do with your life. Graduate school programs want you to be in a position to give back. Either give back to their program or give back to their institution.
When we say work, you mean like
Any,
full time or any work?
any work. And I'll talk a little bit about what experiential learning or what work is and what graduate schools are looking for as far as work. The most unattractive candidate is someone who went to school, has an incredible GPA, and nothing else. No internship opportunities, no job shadowing, no part-time job opportunities, no incentive for initiating research opportunities, like nothing that tells me you're a whole person. All you're telling me is that you can learn. If you take the GRE, I can figure out whether you can learn or not. We want that extra for the candidate.
Good question. I'll just cut up to go to class in like 3 minutes. But I got a job opportunity at Blackboard for the fall. But one of my things I want to do is do law school. So I'm trying to use Blackboard to get my community piece up. But for like students who get a full-time job or have plans for grad school or law school or mid school, whatever that may be, when they have the job, like, how does that work? Like, do they have to quit? Do I have to quit the job, or I know every job is different.
So you'll be enrolled full-time and working full-time for
Yeah.
Blackboard?
Well, no, I won't do it in the fall. I'm saying when I did, what I like typically how the students like, how do you do that? Like, have you already have a full-time job? You typically have to leave their job, or?
It depends on the nature of the program. Some programs make accommodations, especially if you're going to be in a program where they assume that you have an extensive resume. If they're wanting you to come on board with work experience, they're going to assume that you're in an adult capacity where you have to pay your own bills, therefore you have to work. And so like in the program that I'm in, they don't care what the minimum amount of coursework that you take. So you can take like one class and still work 40 hours a week to pursue your higher education, but you still need to sustain your life. So it depends on the nature of the program. If you're going into like a research program, they may not allow you a lot of room. They may offer you assistantships so that you could work related to your program while you're actually pursuing the coursework, but that leaves you no room to actually go out and work a full-time job. And so oftentimes, and what I did was I sat down with the program director months before the application was even open to say, what are the chances of me being successful, working 40 hours a week, and pursuing your program? Part-time or full-time, depending on where you're interested in. And they'll let you know right off the bat whether we accept candidates in that program, whether we, have a reputation of accepting successful students in this program, or that's something that you're absolutely not going to be able to do. So you definitely want to kind of pursue that with the program well in advance, because they'll be able to let you know what room you have. But a lot of programs are looking for those types of candidates. They want someone who is wanting to work, because when you leave the program, we would like to think that you would go out and work. And so they're kind of anticipating that the ideal candidate is someone who's already in the workforce, who's just getting supplemental education to be able to have upward mobility and have different types of positions on not on campus. See, one track mind. In the industry or related to that program that you were in. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
About grad school. So, like, say you're not necessarily like academically strong, like, but you have a lot of experience or work experience. You have a lot of
Yeah, that would be nice.
Like if you have a combination.
Yeah, like your grades aren't necessarily the grades, but you have like work experience, you have volunteering, you're part of a lot of different clubs and all of that. But you got like a thank you, Lordy, to get out.
Right, and a lot of programs want a whole person. They put, not to give grad schools a bad name, because everybody wants to get what they want to get out of it, but they want to know that they want to be able to accurately anticipate that you can give back to the program. And so that's what they're most interested in, is what are you going to bring to the classroom environment? Are you gonna be in this classroom and then the professor's gonna be teaching everybody and you're not gonna have anything to contribute? Because think about if you're in a classroom with someone who has already worked in the private sector about whatever you're talking about. Maybe it's diversity in the workplace and this person has created multiple diversity incentives at corporations. Having that person in your classroom is invaluable because they'll be able to give a perspective that even your professor might not be able to. So they're looking for someone who can contribute to the classroom environment, someone who is most likely to go out into the workforce and do work that will directly contribute to their program. And so that's what they're going to be looking for. And so they have a checklist of, okay, if you have this type of GPA, you're probably most likely to be successful. If you have this type of resume, then you probably have this type of, experience in the world. And so they're looking for all of these things and they give you estimates on what they think that you would have that would represent that. But again, most programs are looking for the whole person. So don't get bogged down on the GPA because Lord knows I did. And then, it goes back to doing your research. I can't express how easy it is to get on the phone and just call and ask, what do you think the chances are that I'm going to be able to get into this graduate school program with a 275 with 2 years of full-time work experience? Easy. Just as easy as that rolled off my tongue. That's how easy it should be for you to shoot an email or to give a call and ask. Because number one, research is important. Number two, now you have a relationship with that program. They're going to know that so-and-so called in and asked about this program. When there are hundreds of students who are applying for that same program who never call, who never email, never. And so that will in itself set you apart from your competition. And make sure that you're using your resources. Go to the College of Charleston Career Center, talk to people who are in the program. It's so easy to just do a Google search, look for the name, and shoot an email directly to that person, to the program coordinator. So make sure that you're using your resources. Another thing that you need is marketing yourself. A lot of students don't like LinkedIn because they have all these other things, but employers are going for LinkedIn. They are going for it. And the College of Charleston's Career Center has a professional LinkedIn account. It does require that you apply to be a part of it, but what happens is employers go to the Career Center's LinkedIn account, and they go and they pull everyone who's attached to that, and then they send them notifications, or they say, I'm pulling your resume, this is great, can you please apply for this position, or are you interested in this job? And so if you really want to create that digital self, really think about applying to be a part of the Career Center's LinkedIn account. This is the only LinkedIn account that's officially certified by the Career Center, and we feed our employers directly into that LinkedIn account, and we grant them access. But what happens is someone goes through your LinkedIn account and combs through every piece of it, every resume, everything. And if it's not up to par, they're going to meet with you and say, this is what you need to do to get your LinkedIn account where it needs to be for you to be affiliated with the Career Center. But it yields, lots of results as far as getting an additional avenue to make connections with employers if you're going into the workforce. I'm just going to keep saying it over and over and over and over. Solidify your networks. Make sure that you have, and if you want to be straight up and say, look, Professor so-and-so, this is the career field I'm looking for, this is the program that I need, and I really need to know if I can use you as a networking opportunity. We know what that means. That means that I can put you down as a reference, I can call you a recommendation letter, I can, reference you as someone who can speak to my coursework or my character or my qualifications, but you need to make sure that that person can actually speak to those things. So be very explicit, be very direct, talk to your professors, talk to your staff members, let them know what you need. Our jobs just don't end when you graduate. So use your money that you're spending to capitalize. And then you want to refine your work experience. I just met with a student today and I said, do you have any leadership opportunities that you've capitalized on? He's like, no, not really. I was like, well, you know what we need to do? We need to create leadership opportunities. So we sat down and we created a leadership opportunity where this person would be supervising 2 employees. But if that person never came to me, then how would I know that I need to come up with these job descriptions, get these opportunities posted for volunteer opportunities, structure the kind of internship so that he is in a supervisory role, and now he can put that on his resume that for a semester I supervised 2 interns that help with marketing and putting out flyers. Easy as pie. So you need to think about not only what you have, but what you don't have. And what path can I get to get that resource? And so, student organizations is a great opportunity. Looking for part-time jobs that speak to whatever you're interested in. Like, oh, okay, this is a part-time job babysitting children. That requires keen eye for detail. You have to be able to see if the baby has something in their mouth. And you have to be able to say that I'm in charge of an entire life. And so you think about what you don't have so that you can go out and look for specific opportunities that can feed that. And then we'll talk a little bit more about resume, cover letters, and portfolios. One way to think about how you're going to networking your skills is you need to talk to people in your field that you're that is of interest to you. So if you know you want to go into healthcare, then you need to start establishing relationships. You're like, okay, I have no idea where to get started. So, okay, just go down to the School of Business, say I need to set up an appointment with Karen Eipert, who is the pre-health advisor, and say, Karen, I'm interested in healthcare. What are some places, some people that I can go to that can help me get some more information about this field? Easy as pie. Just as easy as that. As easy as it is. And then that way now you have something to start with. Now you have a list of contacts or businesses that you can say, hey, I'm interested in healthcare. Can you give me some more information? Or can I come volunteer? Or do you have any internship opportunities? Do you have any paying jobs, part-time? And so boom, just that quick, you've gotten a plethora of information that a lot of students get bogged down in because they think it's like a foot race. You gotta go to every single place and knock on the door. Not the case. Business cards. Even if you have nothing on there but your name, the school that you're graduating from, and maybe your major. But now when someone's talking to you like, oh, I'm super busy, I don't, yes, healthcare, great, but I'm really busy. Do you have contact information? Sitting out there pulling out a pen and pad might not be the most efficient way. But if you're like, yes, I do, and you can do one movement and give a card, now they have your information, they have your major, maybe pre-health. Oh yeah, this person was asking me questions about healthcare, that's right. Boom, they have all your contact information, now you have a contact. Someone that can feed you information. And they're really, really, you get 500 cards for $25. So I'm sure there's a lower increment for that, but it's really, really cheap and affordable for our students. Meet with your professor. Even if you're like, okay, this person's not someone that I'm interested in, that's in my specific field, it's like your English professor, still create a relationship with them. They're married to people who are not in the industry, or maybe they did something before they were professors that was in the industry. There's really no negative to making a relationship with your professors. And I have found in the 10 years that I've been on this campus as a professional that students do that the least. They'll meet with them because they have to, or they'll talk about their grades. That's it. Talk about how you grew up. I met with my professor this semester just to tell him about who I was as a person and ask him who he was as a person. So what do? Do you have any kids? Well, this is what I'm trying to do. This is why I'm taking your course. This is what I want to get out of your class. I want to be able to get an A out of your class. I want to be able to learn about this, this, and this. This is what I do at the college. This is what I, did when I was growing up. I'm going to remember you. I'm going to remember you as a student. He's 100 students that come to his office and say, can you help me study? He does not have 100 students that come to his office and say, who are you? What do you have to offer? This is what I have to offer. So it's really important to make those connections because once you're out of that class, it's a little more difficult to say, oh, remember I took your class 2 semesters ago? I just want to know who you are as a person. You're going to be competing with all the students that are actually enrolled in that course. It's all repeated throughout this entire workshop. It's really important that you make connections with your professors. You're paying good money to be here. Use it. Make connections with your staff. And then we'll talk a little bit about your 30-second marketing story, but whenever you go places, let's use that same example. You're interested in healthcare. And you go and you meet with Karen Eipert and she said, here are some people that you can contact. So you call that guy who was super busy and said, just give me your card. And he contacts you back and said, can you come meet with me? And I can tell you a little bit about what we have to offer as far as healthcare opportunities for college students. And you go meet with this person and he says, tell me a little bit about yourself. That's a trap, first of all, because you're like, oh, I love butterflies and, Coca-Cola with peanuts in it. He really doesn't want to know about you personally. He wants that 30-second marketing story that's going to package you in a way that makes you attractive to the healthcare industry. And so you're going to talk about your transferable skills. You're going to say, oh, well, my name is Marla, and I've worked at the College of Charleston for such and such and such, and my coursework research is in X, Y, and Z, and I'm really interested in pursuing a profession in healthcare because I, make it personal. My father-in-law died of cancer, and so I'm really interested in oncology, and so I know I need to get my foot in healthcare before I'm able to kind of understand how oncology works in servicing people, in the community. And so just 30 seconds, boom, I'm telling you what's relevant to you as a potential employer in relationships to this job. And what you'll do is you'll just have this script in your mind. And you'll say, okay, these are all the things that I'm really, really good at. And I have my script. My script is I have great communication skills. I have a keen eye for detail because I've worked with HR policies, regulations, data entry, payroll processing. And I'm really interested in doing a lot of work that help marginalized groups of students as well as people of the community feel more inclusive. Boom, done. But I've thought about it many times. And so you just want to think about yourself in that way. What are 3 things that I can say about myself that other employees would like? And there are some generic, so you don't have to think about one for healthcare and think about one for teaching and think about one for food and bev. And so I'll talk about these marketable, transferable skills that everyone wants you to have despite the industry that you're interested in. Finding work after graduation is difficult for students because the idea, and I think Alexis can relate to me on this, the idea of what we have sold society in general of postgraduate work is not exactly what postgraduate work is. I've hired at the College of Charleston where the minimum requirement, meaning you cannot apply for the job unless you meet this minimum requirement of having a college degree, start off at $25,000 a year, which is around $10 an hour. And so students think like $10 an hour, that's what I was working as a student. But that's also what you'll be doing as a full-time employee. And these are called like entry-level positions. And in general, they're about around that salary. The average salary for anyone who lives in South Carolina, anyone, that means like if we take the highest educational level of PhD, and we average that with the person who has no degree at all, no high school diploma, we average that all together, the average is $30,000. So the chances that you'll be starting off over 30 is slim unless you have specialized experience. And there are some exceptions. If you're computer science, they graduate students that start at 52. But that's computer science. You're in an industry where it's constantly changing and there's a high demand. And if you're inclined to that, then you're good to go. Chris Starr, he makes sure that his students are good to go. But that's one industry, and it's a very, very unique industry. There are not any other majors that are loosely related to computer science, maybe mathematics, but that's one exception out of how many majors that we have at the campus. So you want to be mindful of being discouraged. So, you know, and I had a parent call and say, my daughter's graduating and she needs to start at 60. And I was like, well, she needs to move to New York. Because in New York, the average salary is 60. So maybe you need to relocate, but you need to think about those things. Applying for jobs unemployed, full-time job. So you need to spend like 3 to 4 hours sitting down, applying for jobs, searching for those jobs, researching the company, making sure that your resume is catered to it, applying for it, creating a fresh cover letter, double checking your references. One job applied for, move on to the second. Yes.
So something that I've been noticing and trying to apply for like entry level positions, or at least in my field, because I'm looking for jobs in public health because that's what my major's in, are that when it comes to entry level experience, like your degree might be okay, but then they want like years of experience. Like there was one position I found that was like, oh, okay, this looks great. And because I had a bachelor's degree, they wanted me to have 7 years experience, which is like, I'm not gonna say it's impossible because I mean, if I started in high school doing stuff in like healthcare and stuff, then yeah, but just graduating, you know, this is an entry level position. If I worked, you know, somewhere for 7 years, I would think that would be like, entry level, not entry, because that's a lot of experience, right?
Well, this generation is in a unique place because the baby boomers are retiring and they represent a large proportion of the population. There's more elderly people in our society today than there has been in the history of the United States. And they have all the experience. They have worked their entire lives. And that's who we're applying for these entry-level positions. I have seen in the last 3 hiring panels that I've been on, there have been, the highest paying position has been 40. And there have been people who make 6 figures, not made. They're currently in a job that pays them 6 figures, and they are applying for a job that's at $30,000. They have 30 years of experience. It's an entry-level position, and Alexis is applying for that same job. And so, and I see it, like I physically see going into places and there's someone who's over the age of retirement, which is 63, who is doing a front desk position or doing some associated work that represents an entry-level position. And so realistically, as an employer, I can ask for that because I know I can get it. Because what they're doing is they're retiring and they're going back into the workforce. We've had director of adult student admissions, Dorinda Harmon, retired, working part-time right now. We had Ann Reed, who used to be in charge of the War Office, retire, start working the next day in the registrar's office. And so these people are retiring with 30 years of experience, applying for the same jobs that you're applying for. And there's nothing that you can do about it but make yourself the most attractive candidate, because employers aren't as dumb as they seem. They do know that someone who's 70 years old is not going to give them 30 years of service. They do know that. And they do know that there is a level of teachability that may not be present with someone who's been in the field for 30 years. I have been the director of a career center for 30 years, and now I'm going to be the lowest person on the totem pole in that same office. As a natural leader, I'm going to want to try to run something. And so someone who's trying to restructure an office might not have that energy in that office, and they might want someone who's more open to newness or not shaped by old ways. And so employers may be looking for something different than what you think they're looking for. So again, don't be discouraged. The employer that is the best fit for you will be the employer that hires you. And so you want to make sure that you have all of your package neat so that they can see that very clearly and very easily. One thing that students don't think about is being perceived as the best interviewee versus being perceived as the best candidate. The best interviewee is the person who's going to tell me everything that I want to hear. The best candidate is going to fit the job, period. And so the way that you become the best interviewee is you just keep going on interview after interview after interview after interview after interview, and then you retain that information and you package it at your next interview. That's not what you do. You need to come with a fresh slate. Someone asks you a question that they've asked you 1,000 times. If you were a tree, what tree would you be? Or tell me a little bit about yourself. Everybody always starts off with that. What you start doing is you start getting into this programmed state of mind. And in the interview, that doesn't work. Absolutely not. Maybe that could get you the interview, but it doesn't work in the interview. I've had someone who did that to me. They were the best interviewee, but they were not the best candidate because they've been on several interviews and they were just trying to get a job anywhere. And if I'm an employer and I'm very meticulous about who I want someone who's a great fit for the office, a great fit for the position, and a great fit for the company. I'm not going to want someone who just wants anything. I want someone who wants this job. I want you to want it as much as I want it, but I need to be able to tell that. So you want to make sure that you're very thoughtful, very considerate when you're doing these interviews. And you don't have to always apply for entry-level positions. Sometimes they want someone to come in that they can groom, and it might not look like an entry-level position. Maybe you've worked on campus in a programming capacity, and that's what they're looking for. It may seem entry-level to you, but it might not to them. So don't be discouraged, but also be very ambitious, because what's the worst thing that can happen if you apply for the job that you're underqualified for? They don't call you. So don't say, oh, I've put in 45 applications and nobody's called me back. It's gonna happen. I mean, they have systems now where they're not even looking at your stuff with their eyes. They're just like feeding your information into a system, and if the words don't come up that match the job description, then they're not even looking at it. And that's not gonna be the good fit for you. So you wanna make sure that you are focused and diligent and very purposeful when you're out looking for job opportunities. Resume tips. You want to remember that the resume's job, if you just keep thinking as you're writing your resume, this is only going to get me the interview, this is only going to get me the interview, that will help you kind of focus your resume in a way that will get you the interview. And for graduate school applications as well, you want to be able to target what you've done. And that's most important. When you're applying for a job, you want to target what you've done that matches what you want to do with this company. So they say, oh, we need you to be able to file papers and answer phones. And you're like, I'm going to tell you about the job that I did when I filed papers and when I answered phones. Because that's the candidate, the candidate that makes me use my brain the less, that's the most qualified candidate. If you're already doing what I'm asking you to do in this new job, that's the candidate that I want. And everybody is pretty much skilled in the way. If you've worked in any type of capacity, volunteer or otherwise, you have some transferable skills. That's communication skills, that's leadership skills, that's being detail oriented, taking the initiative, being flexible, being teamwork oriented, problem solving skills, and interpersonal skills. So, and they sound very generic, but that's the beauty of a liberal arts college, is that's what you're gonna get, is you're gonna get so many different qualifications that whatever job, like teaching, communication, leadership, detail oriented, you need to have initiative, problem solving, interpersonal skills. Hostess at a restaurant, you need to be able to communicate, leadership skills, be detail oriented. You know, so there's multiple jobs that I can just list that these are important qualifications. So that's what you want to think about when you think about your 30-second little spiel, but you also want to think about how can I communicate that on my resume? When have I had great communication skills? Because employers are going to be looking for that. There are very, very few, I can't even think of any, where you would work and don't need to communicate at all. I don't know those jobs. I can't help you with those jobs. But what I can help you do is to find all of the other 100 million jobs that are looking for people that have an ability to communicate. Interpersonal skills. If you can't work with people, it's going to be very difficult for you to interview with people and then go into an office that's run by people. So you want to work on your interpersonal skills. If you know that I've been doing research, I've been doing, solo research for a year and a half. I need to go out and develop my interpersonal skills. And you want to find opportunities where you're working with people, with organizations, programming, working with children. You want to have that, you want to develop that opportunity. With the resume, you want to be very concise, but very detailed. So it seems like an oxymoron, but you want to stay away from fluffy language like, oh, I was responsible for. That doesn't really tell me anything. I'm responsible for, and then you can just fill in the blank. But if I tell you that I created, there's only so many things you can fill into the created box. Or if you organized, there's so many things you can put in organized. If I say responsible for, that's an infinite amount of things. But that's where being concise comes into play. And then being detailed, I always say this, it never fails. Every single, 100% of the time that I meet with a student to go over a resume, they never, ever use quantifiers. Give me a number. Always and forever. If you can't give me a number, give me a range. If you say, okay, I assisted customers. How many customers? I don't know. Is it more than 5? Absolutely. Is it more than 1 million? No. Now we have a range between 5 and 1 million customers. That's how many people I service. Obviously, you want to scale that down more, but that's how you need to think about it. Because what happens is students like, I don't know. Like, oh, well, I babysat. If you babysat one child for 1 hour a month, that is totally different than babysitting 5 children for 8 hours a month. Totally different skill set, totally different job. I'm visualizing a 1 babysitting job versus 6 babies. I'm seeing 2 totally different things in my mind. So that's why quantifiers are so important. And someone say, oh, I increased sales. How much? I don't know. Was it $0 that you increased sales? No, it was more than that. Is it $1? Oh, it's more than that. So in your mind, that's what you need to be thinking. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. But what is not the answer? 0's not the answer. $1 million is not the answer. Is 100,000 the answer? Closer. That's how you can think about quantifiers. Because what happens is students say, I don't know. But you're not thinking enough to kind of recall. Because it gives me an accurate picture of what you're actually doing. Oh, I managed the phone. I answered phone calls. If you have one of those high-tech phones with 25 lines, that's totally different than your cell phone. Totally different. You're not going to have 10 people on hold on your cell phone. That tells me that you have an ability to multitask. You have great interpersonal skills. You have great communication skills. But I don't know that unless you tell me how many lines were on the phone. How many phone calls are you getting a day? Oh, I manage the calendar for our office. You have 2 people in your office. People can manage 2 people calendars in their sleep. If you have 14 people in your office, like academic advising, and you're managing 14 calendars, it's a totally different ballgame. That's why quantifiers are super important, because it tells me exactly what you've done and to what degree. And then the easiest thing of all is to match your job requirements with your experience. Super easy. So you have a job description, it's like, okay, requirements. Degree in communications students 1 year of work experience, and they say job description, manages 14 full-time staff member calendar. That's the first thing they have on there. The second thing is communicates with the students about advising opportunities, comma. The third thing that they put is file documents. Those are the 3 most important things that you're gonna do in that job. When I post jobs here at the College of Charleston, when I post full-time jobs, the job mechanism that you go in and type requires that you put percentages. What's gonna be 90% of their job? What's gonna be 20% of their job? What's gonna be 10? So as a person who's posting the job that you're gonna apply for, I have to put it in that order. So use that order to your advantage. Focus on those 3 things. They could go in this long tangent about all these programs that you need. If they're not at the beginning, they're not as important as the things that are in the beginning. So you sit down with your cover letter or with your job description there and your resume there and you say, okay, great communication skills. When have I done great communication skills? That's what you're gonna do. That is the cleanest way to organize your resume. Does that make sense? Cover letter, this one's gonna be very brief because it's not like your resume. Let's say that you're applying to be a teacher. You probably could take one resume and apply for all your teaching positions. Cover letter, you absolutely can never do that. Never. You can never do that. I cannot tell you how many, I had the last hiring panel had 99 applicants. I was grateful when I came to a cover letter that was crappy. Because I'm just gonna put it in, I'm not gonna look pile. Because I have other people who have developed cover letters. I have 99 applications, resumes, and cover letters that I have to read. If you have a paragraph on there, you're done. This person has 2. Like, why am I gonna waste my time reading these 8 pages of potential nothingness because you didn't even take the time to write an effective cover letter? So, use it or don't use it at all. Because it's going to be your worst enemy if you're not using it in an effective way. And that's gonna communicate all the things that you can't put in your resume. You know, like if you love to work in third world countries, feeding children, but you've never done it, that's where you're gonna put that type of information. 3 to 5 paragraphs. If you put a 1-paragraph cover letter on an application, you are going to look absolutely ridiculous because there are gonna be people who are putting more paragraphs. So you have to be cognizant of who your competition is. Now, if you're the only applicant and you put 1-paragraph cover letter, then you might be awesome, but it's probably not gonna happen since there's hundreds of thousands of students that are gonna be graduating at the same time that you're graduating. So be mindful. You kind of want to have about a page. You have your introduction. Okay, thank you. I'm really interested in this corporation. And then your 3 paragraphs in the middle. That's why I have 5. The 3 paragraphs in the middle are going to be those 3 things we talked about. That's going to be listed on the job description first. You're going to pull that one thing out and say, okay, it says you didn't have great communication skills. I'm going to tell you a story about how I learned to develop my communication skills and how I perfected it. And then the last sentence is going to be, so because I've learned this, and because I've perfected this, this is why I am the best candidate for the position. Next thing, detail-oriented. Well, when I was in my position in academic advising and planning office, a lot of my job responsibilities required that I go through all of the files and make sure that each advising appointment documentation was filed with the right person. That means that you have to know your ABCs, and that you have to be detail-oriented. Katie Smith looks like Katie M. Smith. So you gotta use, your detail-oriented. And you wanna tell about how you develop that skill set. And that's why you're the most qualified candidate. So it seems very simple. You just have to do the mental work to organize it. And then you wanna be able to visualize. You wanna stay away from passive language. Like responsible for. You wanna be very assertive in using action verbs to describe. I created, I managed, I handled, I processed. I want you to use those action verbs so that I can see you. And that's what I love to do. I'll read a cover letter and visualize. And the more vividly that I can see that you're doing this work, the most qualified you are, the more qualified you are to be called in for an interview. Because remember, resume and cover letter only gets you the interview, doesn't get you anything else. So now you have the interview. And be mindful that a lot of graduate school programs require that you come and you fight for your spot. Especially the Citadel, you have to literally come into a room with 7 other people and you fight for your spot. So so-and-so's over there saying, but I'm the best person for the program because I did this, and this, and this. What are you gonna say? you really want to be in this program, and it's the only program in the region that you're interested in, what are you going to say? What is going to put you above your competition? If you're coming in there with jeans and sweatshirt, you can do all the research in the world, but if I don't think you can represent my program in a professional manner, I don't want you. And so you have to dress the part everywhere that you go. You go and talk to them, talk about the healthcare. You say, oh, I'm just going to ask you a question. You come in there with jeans and a tore up t-shirt, and someone comes right behind you with a suit, I've forgotten about you already. I have mentally already forgotten about you because this suit is extremely impressive. I want to hear what you have to say. So you always need to dress the part. Women have the most difficult part because there's so many pieces of us that can be all over the place. So like guys, they don't really wear makeup. You know, they don't really wear a tremendous amount of jewelry. We have like piercings and necklaces and earrings and rings and bracelets, and guys normally in general don't wear as much jewelry as we do. And so that's just jewelry and that's just makeup. Then there's hair. You know, we can wear long hair, short hair, curly hair, straight hair, up hair, down hair. Guys normally don't have as much versatility as women do. Then there's clothes. Men normally wear pants. Women, we can wear pants and we can wear skirts. Skirts can be long, skirts can be short, we can wear dresses. And so because there's so many options, there's so many different ways in which it can go wrong. And so when in doubt, wear a suit. No one has ever not gotten the job because they didn't wear a suit. It's hot in Charleston. Wear a suit. You're always going to look better than the people who did not wear a suit. And always those suits. And it's super easy. You're just going to find pants and a jacket to match, a plain shirt, done. But if you know you want to spice it up or you want to do something different, then you can say, oh, I want to wear a turtleneck like that lady. Or the lady with her arms crossed, got her little butterfly collars popped out. Like you can be creative, but for me, simple is easiest. I have a hard time dressing coordinated in a coordinated manner. And so I just like to wear bland things. Like just okay, just give me a pants and a shirt that already match and then I will move on. Another thing about interviewing is when you go in for your interview, you always need to be 15 minutes early. 30, overkill. We're gonna think something. What's going on? What you doing? You spot what's going on. But 10 is pushing it. On time, you are late. I can guarantee you that will not be a positive look for you. Always arrive early. When in doubt, you can call. Like, look, I need to arrive early for my appointment. What's a good time to arrive? Well, I mean, if I pick up the phone, like, what's the disadvantage of me telling you straight up what's a good time to come? You know, and so, and then number 2, which we've already said this before, who's not calling? I'm not going to know who's not calling. I'm going to remember who called. Now, this person is resourceful because they were smart enough to call. And it sounds very simple, but your peers are not using the phone. And the people who have the power to hire in those positions like using the phone. So there's a gap there, and it's your responsibility to close that gap. So people who are doing the hiring, we're old school. We don't care about none of that new school stuff. You can send 1,000 emails, but the person who doesn't send that email and calls, that's the person who's going to give me that, extra impression. And when in doubt, always talk it up with the receptionist because I always go back and say, what did you think about her? What did she say? What did she say? And I've had people shoot themselves in the foot by talking trash to the receptionist saying, oh my God, it's just taking so long. It's just, well, she's going to come back and tell me. And then now you don't look as attractive as you do as other candidates. Does that make sense? And we've talked a lot about graduate school. And so now's the time to think about applying. You need that letter of intent. You need your letter of recommendations. We talked a lot about creating those relationships, maintaining those relationships so that I just had to go through this whole process where I had to call professors that I've had in 2001 and say, yeah, you remember how I learned in your class? Absolutely. Because what I've done from 2001 to 2016 is I've maintained a relationship with those people every single year. And now they have no problem creating a letter of recommendation for me. And work experience obviously is oftentimes required. I haven't really met a program where they don't want you to have some sort of work experience, even if it's just part-time job work that you've had while you were enrolled. Real world stuff. You need to be mindful of bills. Preach to the choir here. Insurance, preaching to the choir once again. Updating your CFC address is really important because you want to make sure that if we need to contact you about stuff, about opportunities, job fairs perhaps, we need to have something up to date on file for you. And then if you're like in the world of relocation, you need to be very strategic in how you think about relocation. You need to think about the best places to think about relocating postgraduate is places that have a reputation for a lot of young professional growth. Like Charlotte. Charlotte is the closest place in Greenville that have been marked to have the most amount of entry-level positions available for out of college graduates. So, a place to not move to, sorry, Charleston, is Charleston. Because we have a lot of, people here that require experience. And so we're not growing in the entry-level positions. There's a lot of what we have here is old businesses of money. You want to go to places that are fairly new and undeveloped so you can get those new entry-level positions. Do you have questions for me?
I do have a question about, so for grad school, so I know I guess you would look for like a holistic admissions thing or whatever. So whenever I'm like crafting my, not my letter of intent, but like my personal statement and things like that, like what all would I put in that?
With your letter of intent, you want to tell a story. And so start off with something that's very personal and maybe even anecdotal for a paragraph. Talk about a time in your life where you first realized that this is the profession that you wanted, this is the industry that you wanted, this is the type of person that you are, or this is the type of program that you wanted to be in. I used, when I did my letter of intent, I used a story about when I was in 5th grade and I was poor, and I realized when I did a project and didn't have any resources, and all the other kids in the gifted and talented course had all of these other resources. And that's when I realized that that's what I want to do, is I want to create other opportunities for kids to have resources when I didn't have resources. And so look what I do now. Is I do that. And so that's what you want to do, is you want to have that story, and then you want to talk about how that incident, that anecdotal story, will fuel your success. And what I chose to do is I met with the program director and said, what do you think are some good things to include in my letter of intent? And she told me exactly what I needed to include. An anecdotal story, and then I also needed to include what I was going to bring to the program and what I wanted to get out of the program. Done. Yeah. So that's the easiest, most efficient way to kind of get an extremely effective cover letter, is to get it from the horse's mouth. Because a lot of people think that it's like taboo to go and ask the program director who's going to be looking at the stuff, what would you put in it? The worst thing that she can say is, I'm not going to tell you. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen. The best thing that could happen is she tells you itemized, this is what I put in mine, or this is what the most effective candidate put in theirs. Now you have a formula to get that most effective letter of intent written. It's a great idea.
I have another question. So one of the things we talked about was like relocation. I'm now, like I said earlier, applying for jobs within my field, and I've noticed that a lot of like the better jobs that would be jobs that I could get are like further out. So like New York, or, well, Georgia's not too far because it's right next door and I have like family there, but like New York is like a 12-hour drive, so it's a bit further out. Like how do you decide, like what place would be the best for you outside of just like job placement and things like that? But like, do you decide, like, are there certain factors that you look at for that area, like, I don't know, housing or things like that?
Yes, absolutely. You want to make sure that you can afford it. You're applying for this job in New York, you need to make sure that the salary is comparable to the average rent in that specific region, not just that city, but that specific region where you'll be living. You need to make sure that you're able to get transportation if you're, if you don't have a car. You need to be able to understand the transportation system prior to reporting to work. And so oftentimes, it requires a visit or two to make sure that, you understand what's going on in that area. And you always want to make sure that there's potential for growth. So like, okay, this job doesn't work out. What is the chance that I'll be able to find something else in this area without relocation again? Because this is not working out. Or this is working out very well, and I'm really interested in doing something more or better. What's my ability to move up? And so upward mobility is really important. Costing is essential. You need to be able to know that you can afford it, but you need to be able to know that you can afford the relocation component. Because you need to know that you can go and look for a place, put money down on a place, get that place, and then report to work. But the growth is the most important thing, because I think people in general can relocate wherever, and they can stay for about 6 months, but then what can you do after that? And then can you make a life there for yourself? And then culturally, is this something that will make you happy? You know, because you can go to work all day, and you can make all the bank that you need, and you can live in that area, but then you're sad. And I see that a lot. You know, people will come here from Ohio or the Midwest, and they'll think that the beach is awesome, but they can't make connections with people, and so they go back home. And so you want to make sure that you have a support system there that's going to facilitate that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I had another question, but now I don't remember.
Well, that's okay, because this will be posted online, and you know where to find me if you have additional questions. So I really appreciate you staying for the workshop.